everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Powerful Stuff. I am here in Sweden. I was in Sweden last week and I was recording, fighting off jet lag or just embracing it, going with the flow, rolling with the punches, taking the 2 p.m. 3-hour naps. And now I am in Salzburg, which is just 20 minutes outside of Stockholm. And it is this crazy idyllic Swedish place with I'm looking outside my window right now and there's beautiful green trees everywhere, a lake that you can swim in, a floating sauna. We're staying in a little cabin with its own private deck. And our Airbnb hosts have chickens on the site that are so happy and healthy, a heated pool. It's like every person's Scandinavian dream, what Scandinavian dreams are made of. So we enjoy kind of the late night 10 p.m. sunset. They even have a rowboat that we went on last night. It was crazy, idyllic, powerful stuff, guys. And I thought this episode, I've mentioned my travel and I've talked about it when I was traveling for 5 months, but I thought this would be a fun episode because we're all in the midst of summer of talking about intention setting for a trip and how to make a good trip a great trip. Both literally and metaphorically, a trip throughout the mind, a trip through the geographic scape, and just some of my quick little tips and tricks and things that I've had to remind myself of in this Swedish trip and beyond, and hopefully that you can take with you on your summer travels and beyond as well. And this goes for any kind of trip, whether it's a trip with your girlfriends, your boyfriends, a wedding, to get away. And they were pretty simple, but they're stuff that I had to remind myself of this last week because sometimes we leading up to a trip are so fast and furious and we're trying to get everything done. And so our mind is working a mile a minute to try to get those things done and then to pack and the logistics and getting to the airport and checking in and all of those things that we end up maybe operating at a higher stress level or cortisol level or just speed overall. But the point of a trip actually can be really to replenish, to slow down, which is what I did my last week's episode on slowing down, letting our dopamine reset, letting ourselves open up to and enjoy the magic of being in a new place. And trips are so powerful for this because they are a moment where we can break our usual routine, our usual patterns, and ask ourselves kind of like when you're in middle school going into high school, you're like, who do I want to be in this next chapter? It's a time to kind of start fresh for a second and restart the canvas of let me make some new patterns. Let me make some new rituals versus sometimes we go on a trip and we have a bender or we get out of routine with some of the stuff that does make us feel grounded and good. And we can come back feeling even more discombobulated or we needed a vacation from the vacation. And we don't want to do that, guys, because we know you've spent a lot of time planning your logistics, doing the thing. And we want to make sure we squeeze every ounce of juice out of these vacation moments. So first things first, for what I do is to set up for a good trip. Some of these are tactical, some of these are spiritual. Some of these are in between, and we'll do a little medi at the end as always. But some of the things that I do or did before going to Sweden, and we were also going to St. Louis with our friends for a wedding. So we went to St. Louis first for a wedding and then to Sweden for a wedding and now for a little decompression and offsite with Spencer. So it has this is a multi-purpose trip, if you will. But first things first is kind of staying hydrated and getting enough sleep early on so I don't feel tired or grouchy. And so, when I'm at the airport, drinking lots of water, drinking electrolytes, trying to eat well or plan ahead or pack a meal. So I also don't feel like I'm just eating junk, which can make me feel just sluggish and gross. So doing a little bit of planning ahead of if I know I'm not going to like the airport food, especially because I'm gluten-free and vegan, what are some things I can do and pack to make sure that I don't feel like I'm starving on the flight and then binge on all of this kind of gross food that I end up feeling just is just sitting as a weight in my stomach. Anyways, so that's a small thing that I do. I think this last time I packed myself a little avocado gluten-free sandwich for the flight, and I had some nuts and I had my ultimate electrolytes. And then I always bring my eye mask on the flight and my toothbrush because it's clean teeth, happy life, as I say, and my face wipes, just to feel kind of grounded and clean. And then I also always try to get in movement the day of my airline flight. I usually, even if it's just like a 10-minute yoga, a few sun salutations and like pigeon pose. And when I go to the bathroom in the airplane, I'll do like calf raises and hold up the line of the bathroom, but just, yeah, like kind of like move my body a little. Sometimes if I'm feeling really spicy, like one of my guilty pleasures is like putting on a little Taylor Swift song and doing a little lip sync in the mirror, just having a little play, a little fun with myself, assuming there's not people in line behind me. Don't worry, guys, I don't stay in there for more than 2 minutes, I swear. Um, and then when you get to a place, there's a few things to consider. So I've talked a lot about this with clients in the past of like, they're like, oh, well, I feel like my routine goes out the window and I have a hard time finding balance because I'm like balls to the wall when I'm working and not on vacation. Then when I am on vacation, I shut off or I binge or I do whatever, have a bender, or I just like don't move at all. And then I feel like shit coming back. So I say it's kind of like the Goldilocks equation, like not too little, not too much, just right, And I try to ask myself, what are my non-negotiables regardless of where I am, right? Like brushing your teeth, you're going to do that whether you're in Croatia or Alabama or Venice Beach. At least I think most of us would do that, right? So, what is your non-negotiables for the things that make you feel centered regardless of where you are? For me, it's getting in a little movement each day. And I'm not militant. I'm not like I need to do 1 hour of Barry's boot camp every day, but maybe it's like 10 or 15-minute yoga or 10-minute online YouTube Pilates or a long walk. Or if I really don't have time on a travel day, I'll just like walk around the airport, like while I'm waiting for my flight and get my steps in that way. But yeah, so it's movement and then some sort of meditation or journaling practice. Sometimes, ideally, it's both, but sometimes, let's be honest, on a vacation or when we're traveling, it can just be one or the other because maybe we don't have time for both. So, what is that like? You know, even just like 5-minute meditation or intention setting, taking a few deep breaths, listening to a song that's really relaxing, and just asking yourself, like, what is my intention? How do I want to feel on the other side of today? How do I want to feel on the other side of this trip? And figuring out what your 2 or 3 non-negotiables are for your trip. And then once you do that, communicating that to whoever you're traveling with. So if it's your partner or if it's your friends or you're on a bachelorette party or something, hey, like these are the things that I need to do each day. I'm not tied to the timing of them, but just know that I might need to step away and make sure that this happens at some point in time. And I guarantee you there's going to be some part of the day where there's a lull. You don't need to spend 24 hours with other people, making sure that they're happy. They have their own things. They need their alone time. And you can also ask them, what is the thing that you need to make sure that you get done today? What would make you feel really grounded on this trip? What's your intention for the day? Right. So you can each have your own kind of ritual non-negotiable, and then you can each talk about your larger intention for the trip. My intention, like as I did with my husband, my intention is that I show up for my friend's wedding and that I also have time to decompress and we have an offsite about our relationship and we can come back feeling like centered about what we both want to do in this next chapter of our relationship. So that was my intention. And then I had like 1 or 2 secondary goals. Like it would be nice to just like have a day or two of like chilling, doing nothing, journaling by the lake, and also getting through a little bit of this program that I just signed up for with some business stuff brewing, which I'm excited to tell you guys more about later. So that was my intention. And my husband's was like, I want to see some of Sweden. I want to have a Swedish meal at some point, and I want to use this time to also like work remote and get some stuff done for work. And I want to have like at least one day of calls a week with my employees and colleagues so I don't feel behind on stuff because my husband and I are both self-employed. And so we were both really clear about that and really clear to each other about when we needed our us time, or like our alone time, and then also our us time, like, and that when we were with each other, could we put our phones away and could be really present. So first communicating to yourself what your non-negotiables are, and then communicating to the other person. And that can be the non-negotiables in the ritual and the 1 or 2 things that are just like your overarching battle cry or intention for the trip, so to speak. And when I did that with Sweden, my husband was also conversely able to help me slow down when I kind of started getting into future tripping, because little Meredith, bless her heart, has a tendency to be like, okay, well, actually, I want to get this thing done. And now I'm planning this event and I want to get that squared away. And like I kind of have this like inner to-do list in my head. And he's like, whoa, why don't you just remember your intention? Why don't you just pick that one thing? You came here to relax, to do a dopamine reset. So like, what is the one thing that you want to do? And so you can also have your partner, your friend, whoever it is, like gently and lovingly, like remind you of what your intention is, as my husband did for me this last week when I was jet lagged and tired and felt like my mind still hadn't slowed down with my body or my intention yet. He kind of helped me do that and like, okay, let's go outside. Let's feel the sun on our face. Let's go for a walk. Let's get a cute little coffee at a cute Swedish cafe. And then what's the one thing that you want to do today? Because it's so easy, especially when we're uncomfortable with slowing down, or we're used to sometimes basing our worth off of our productivity. Vacations can actually be uncomfortable and confronting, and then we can end up scrolling or filling our time if we are like trying to not work because we feel like we need to be doing something. And I caught myself doing that this last week. I had a little TikTok scroll, and then I felt kind of shitty after, where I'm like, I'm on vacation. Like, if I'm going to do anything, I might as well be reading or journaling or going through this course that I bought. But it was a reminder of like, okay, it was a moment of silence that I could have opted into stillness. And this is advice I need to take myself, that I even give my clients. And like, can I notice like the discomfort of like, ooh, I have some time alone. I want to reach for my phone. What's something else I could do instead? I want to reach for my phone. Can I go out and put my feet in the lake? I want to reach for my phone. Like, can I go for a walk around the little cabin and then come back and see what feels true? Can I ask my husband for support around this? So those are just like little kind of guardrails. So that way, like if you are surrendering your productivity for the week, you can actually truly have your dopamine reset. Because otherwise, it's like, I say this, I've used this analogy in the past. It's like you're an iPhone with all the apps running in the background, but you're not using it. So it drains the battery more, versus just like Xing out of all the apps and taking a true rest and conserving the battery. So it's like, what do you need to conserve the battery of this trip? And not to say the intention needs to be a huge to-do list, but maybe it's also just like, I need to have fun. I want to laugh. I want to laugh a lot on this trip, or I want to just like write more poetry, and that'll be a win. Or I want to finally read this book or this like fantasy fiction novel that I've been dying to read, and that will be a win. But just like letting my mind power down and letting me show myself that I am enough even without this productivity. Because that is such a message of high self-worth when you actually allow yourself to do nothing, or to do something that doesn't have a KPI, so to speak, but is just doing it for the sake of doing it, saying, I'm enough just doing this. By me just doing this, I surrender control. I don't need to control how the day goes. And sometimes I find myself doing that on trips as well. As like, I'm like, okay, well then we'll go for a walk, and then we'll go to do this hike, and then we'll lounge by the pool, and then we'll do a yoga, and then and when I notice myself doing that, I have to have a little conversation with little Meredith of like, okay, like what's going on? And little Meredith is usually like, well, I feel like I need to be doing these things because we don't always get this vacation, and I want to make sure we get the most of it, right? It's coming like from a good place of little Meredith wanting me to have a good time. And then I need to tell her, it's okay. We're going to get to these things. And part of the joy is practicing loosening our grip. It's practicing slowing down. It's practicing releasing. And it's truly just being an essentialist of what are the one or two things that are going to make me feel good today. Whether it's the meditation and movement and a little journaling, or the meditation and movement, a little discussion with Spencer about our relationship, like having that overarching intention of what is the end goal of the trip? How do you want to feel on the other side? And then what are the supporting actions or spaciousness to support that? So that's kind of the gist of it. And I've had to put this into practice myself. Even like the last 2 days when we got to this cabin after Stockholm, which was so great, but a lot of wedding activity. So we were kind of on the move a lot, if you will, in Stockholm. And I was battling jet lag and getting over a illness with some antibiotics that were like harsh on my system. And so I was like, I finally feel like I can exhale. But then I almost had this funny thing happen where it was like FOMO before I even left, or not FOMO, but like nostalgia before I even left the cabin. We got here yesterday and I found inner Meredith voice being like, we only have 2 full days here and I want to soak it up and I want to really relax and I want to do this and chill by the lake and swim in the pool. And it was like little Meredith had a fear that she wouldn't get to it all or that there wasn't enough time. And my husband's like, we're here now. We're present now. Like, what do you need? And it was a good reminder to like slow down, enjoy what is in the present moment. What can we do to mix up our routines? We took the electric bikes that they have here, another incredible thing that they have at this Airbnb. Then we went for a ride to like the nearest cute little port town. We went for a rowboat, did things out of the norm. And then I just focused on, okay, did I get my movement today? Did I get my meditation today? And coming back to the present moment. And when I did have the scroll, instead of the TikTok scroll, the TikTok gate, instead of beating myself up, okay, what was I doing? I was feeling a little uncomfortable in the stillness. Could I journal? Could I go lay and look at the stars or dip my feet in the lake? And not beat myself up or put so much weight or expectation around how I spend each waking moment here. But being like, my overall intention is to relax, is to slow down, is to actually not scroll or not consume as much so I can figure out what creation wants to come through. And it's okay if I did scroll, I'm not going to beat myself up, right? It's important about coming back to the compassion. But if I did, how can I come back to what is true? So all of that's to say, TLDR, guys, too long, don't read. The bottom line is, what are your non-negotiables for your trip? Get clear on the thing or two that's going to make you feel really centered, regardless of where you are. Is it your movement? Is it your meditation? Is it eating nourishing foods? How can you plan a little bit ahead and communicate that to your partner, the people you're traveling with? What alone time do you need throughout the day to kind of recenter, especially if you are traveling with a group? And how do you want to feel at the end of the trip when you're coming back home and you're like, oh, that trip was so needed. It was so magical. I feel rested. I feel reset. Or I feel like if it was an offsite or an offsite with a partner, or if it was like a bachelorette party or whatever, it's like I feel connected. I feel on the same page. And then how can that inform kind of what you choose to focus on each day, and communicating that to the other person with the best intention of like, this is what my intention and hopes are for this trip. What are yours? And how can we support each other in that? And then each day just being compassionate with yourself. At the end of the day, you're on a trip. How incredible is that? And something so simple to always come back to is a gratitude practice that helps bring us back to the present moment. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful that the Airbnb hosts have this cabin. I'm grateful that I get to look at the lake. I'm grateful that it doesn't get dark till 10 here so we can stretch our day. I'm grateful that when I did scroll on TikTok, I caught myself and decided to pick up my book and read. I'm grateful that while I'm not getting all my tasks done, I'm kind of thinking about what's most important and picking a priority, which is more important than making a list of 10 tasks to get done, right? Is like finding my focus. So yeah, just kind of coming back to gratitude, coming back to the present moment of why you're grateful to be on this trip in the first place, and really savoring the little magical moments already. And if you find yourself trying to control something, and this is something I just talked about with a client, if you find yourself trying to control, just noticing, like writing it out, the story I'm telling myself is blank. And, a fun exercise is like, if you're trying to control it doing XYZ things, write out an alternative ending where the opposite actually happens and you don't follow this plan, but then something so magical happens because you allowed yourself to loosen your grip. So it's kind of like writing an alternate ending to whatever you're trying to control, just to remind your inner self, like, hey, some of the best things happen when it doesn't go as planned, when we don't hold our grip on it. And then I think like a fun way to supercharge, I know this kind of helps set the groundwork for it and helps troubleshoot in some ways, but to supercharge your trip, yeah, it's like envisioning how you want to feel on the other side. And like, wouldn't it be fun if these different things happen? Wouldn't it be fun if I prioritized XYZ. Wouldn't it be fun if I completely relaxed and trusted in the present moment? Wouldn't it be fun if I lost all sense of time and barely looked at my phone? Like, what are these? Or wouldn't it be fun if I like met a stranger and had a really interesting conversation that like changed my perspective around something? Like having some of these fun, spontaneous thoughts. And then like, what is something that you can do outside of the norm on your trip? Is it talking to a random person at a cafe? Is it like going for a bike ride and discovering a new place? But yeah, when you're trying to control something, it's like, how can I actually do the opposite right now? And that's usually where the adventure and the trip lies, and where the memories that you end up recounting to others lie. So with that being said, now that I've given you guys a deep dive into my Swedish trip, with more to come after this, Spencer and I are going to chill, see where the wind blows us. Some friends are going to come over. I found myself even this morning being like, oh my gosh, I should have worked out before they came over. But I'm like, I will work out eventually today. I don't know when, but I know I will. And that is the magic of manifestation too, is letting go of the when and trusting that it will. Okay. So we'll just do a brief little trip intention setting. So closing your eyes, taking a deep breath in, exhale, sigh it out, opening your mouth, another deep breath in, pulling your breath up, one more sip, sigh it out, stick your tongue out even more. Wow, that was powerful, guys. Third and deepest breath. One more sip at the top. And exhale, really let it out. And imagine yourself on the last day of your trip, feeling so centered and replenished, like you've maintained your center of equanimity, like you've done things to recharge yourself. You've slowed down. You've had deep musings, deep conversations. You just feel so grateful. So grateful for all the people you've met, for all the magic around you, for just being in this new scene or new place. And how are you feeling on this last day of your trip? Just like really full-hearted, grateful for what was, but also feeling excited to take this slowness, this clarity, this perspective back to your life, wherever you live, wherever you call home. How does it feel in your body? Where do you feel this slowness and this contentedness? Wherever you feel it, whether it's your hips, your heart, your navel, your head, imagine it like this glowing light, a softly pulsing white light. Imagine it starting to travel to all parts of your body. Each cell, each bone, each vein. Your whole body feels like this glowing white light. And imagining this last day of your trip, doing a few of the things that make you feel so centered, no matter what environment you're in, no matter what the day has in store, just trusting in your ability to do these things and that make you feel good, not because you have to, but because they feel good and nourished. And they connect you to yourself. And how does this inner stability and radiance affect and elevate those around you, the people you're traveling with? How does it bring them more calmness, more connection with you? The people that you pass on the street or meet in a cafe or a restaurant, feeling your energy. And how does that energy ripple into your life back home? Bringing this calmness and clarity to your relationships back home. Softening them, creating more allowance. How does it soften into your business? Bringing more ease and clarity and focus. And how does it soften into your overall way of being? Leaving you feeling more replenished, even more you than when you left. Looking at yourself on the last day of this trip, noticing their energy, their relaxed demeanor. Just asking them one thing that you can shed, one belief, idea, story, thing that you can shed to create more space for this energy. And then asking them for a ping, for an insight, for one thing to lean into, to communicate, to do on this trip, or just to remember. And then just hearing from them their intention for you, their wish for you for the rest of the trip, for you to get the most out of it, for you to trust in its medicine. Thanking them, feeling that medicine in your heart, sending it to your toes, your nose, your hips, your knees, your face, your elbows, your shoulders, your hair tips. And then breathing it in. Exhale, sigh it out. And then one more breath in. And exhale, let it go. Opening your eyes, coming back into this space. And when your eyes are open, just maybe writing down what that intention is, what those non-negotiables are for yourself to make this the best trip ever. And to remind yourself if you find yourself getting into expectations or control or wound up, what are the things that you can do to bring you back to your center to slow down? Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for being with me on this little trip that we just took together. And I hope you have the best trip ever. And I'm excited to see you more next week for more powerful stuff. Hey, you. Thank you for coming on this powerful journey with me. I hope it was as powerful for you as it was for me. And if it was, it would mean the world to me if you rate, review, and subscribe to Powerful Stuff so I can keep bringing you the goods. We can keep going on this transformative journey together. And if there's powerful stuff that you want to share with me, with the Powerful Stuff community, tag us on Instagram at That's Powerful Stuff or the Meredith Baker. And I look forward to seeing you next week.